everybody. Welcome to this VC Lab info sessions. We do these sessions from time to time just to be able to answer any of the questions that folks come up. It could be questions about the VC Lab program, it could be questions about your fund, about your fundraising, about anything. We just do these all the time because we want to try to give back to the community and to help new managers start their funds. My name is Mike Suprovici. I'm the head of acceleration here at VC Lab. I'm also joined by Adeo Ressi, who's the CEO of VC Lab. And what we're going to do is we're going to give first a brief overview about VC Lab, and what we're up to and so on. And then we're going to start just going through it and answering your questions.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Adeo. By way of introductions, I've been an entrepreneur for about half of my career, which is roughly 27 years. And I've been working on the entrepreneurial ecosystem and venture capital for the other half of my career. I started out, by the time I was 30, I had two separate billion-dollar companies. I actually started the precursor to SpaceX with Elon Musk, because we're like, what do we do next? Let's work on space. It was called Life to Mars. So, had a pretty colorful and successful entrepreneurial career. And then I was like, the best way, and I was on the board of the X Prize for many years. And that was like, the best way that I can give back is by helping pass on all the knowledge that I've learned as an entrepreneur to other entrepreneurs. So I started something called the Founder Institute. Through that, invented thing, and also something called the Funded, which allowed entrepreneurs to rate venture capitalists. Through that, ended up writing the first Safe Note, invented the Safe Note. I invented the FAST agreement for advisors. And many other documents that many investors and entrepreneurs use all around the world. And through that process was like, wow, there's not really enough venture capital firms in the world today to support the level of entrepreneurship that we're seeing all around the world, Central Asia, Africa, LATAM, everywhere. So at the Founder Institute, about 2 years ago, we had an idea to create an accelerator for venture capital firms. And that was the genesis of VC Lab. We started it at the Founder Institute, where I was CEO. It took off at a crazy rate. We had no idea how successful it would be. It was enormously successful. And we said, this is so successful and so different, we need to spin it out. And that was the genesis of what VC Lab is today. So about 9 months ago, we spun out VC Lab from the Founder Institute. I think the official date was about a year ago, but we were sort of in a limbo. It was in April 16th that we incorporated VC Lab, but we didn't actually leave the Founder Institute for another 3 months to join VC Lab. So about 9 months ago, we spun out. And even in the last 9 months that we've been spun out, it's been an incredible journey helping, hundreds of funds around the world. And just to give you some stats, we've helped launch over 100 funds with over 1.5 billion of target AUM to date through cohort 4. Cohort 5 and cohort 6 are running right now. We just are finishing cohort 5. And we're sort of mid-ish way on cohort 6. Those two cohorts are going to probably between them do easily another 100 or so funds that we'll have helped to create. And just to put things in perspective, so you have a sense, we're going to double the number of funds that will launch in 2022. So if you look at before VC Lab existed and said how many funds will be created, it was one number. And now that VC Lab is running, we're actually going to double worldwide the number of new venture capital firms that are launched. So it's pretty interesting time for us, pretty interesting time in the market. Now, I gave a longer intro about me. Mike, why don't you wrap up the intro, then I'll tell you a little bit about what we do. And a couple things of note, there's a chat. That's a great place to introduce yourself. We have at least 100 people here right now. It's going to grow. Put your LinkedIn in, meet other people from around the world launching funds. The chat is a great place for you to chat with one another, meet peers, etc. There's also a Q&A button at the bottom. If you want Mike and I to answer any of your questions, get it into the Q&A and upvote it. And we're going to go through as many questions as we can. And we're going to take them in order of votes. So make sure before you ask a question to take a look and upvote it. So Mike, do you want to just talk a bit about your background before we talk?
Yeah, before VC Lab, I was managing portfolio Founder Institute. I was helping 5,000 companies at the time. And at the time, Founder Institute was really scaling. So we're creating thousands of companies really every year. And the main thing that I focused on was helping companies raise capital, right? And this is basically how the genesis of VC Lab started, right? So I was running one of our fundraising program, helping hundreds of founders raise capital. And I just started to see just how challenging it was for founders to raise capital, particularly if they were not in like the main locations, if they were not if you're an underrepresented founder, if you're, female, whatever, it's just like very, very challenging, right? And so that's when Adeo and I had this idea. I was like, look, we have been raising multiple funds internally at Founder Institute. We had gotten it down to almost like a science. It was like they were like subscribing, within like, a month or two at the most, right? And so we said, look, maybe we can create a program, right, that can help create more venture capital firms that are trying to fund things that matter, that are important, that are, more global, more dispersed and things like that. And that's how we started with cohort 1 roughly about 20 months ago. And that cohort was very successful. We ended up launching 12 firms out of that. And for us, launching means we get a firm to a first close. And we were able to get them that done in roughly about 6 months. So just the market for something like this, even today, is 12 to 18 months to get to a first close, right? So, now it's on a whole nother level, right? It's basically the premier closing program for new managers. It's, we've helped hundreds of firms reach a first closing, and, we're just constantly iterating and improving and trying to, help make the venture capital ecosystem better in various different ways.
Mike and I launched 14 funds together at Founder Institute. I've launched a bunch of other funds beyond that. And the funny thing is that we thought we were pretty good. I mean, we were pretty good. We got closings done sometimes in 2 months on a new fund, which is unheard of. But what's interesting is now we've taken all that knowledge and we've built it into the program. We have free tools as part of the program that are beautiful. And like, it's so much better that if we even look at what was a pretty impressive track record between the two of us, what we're doing now dwarfs that. So it's like, it feels kind of not that significant, but it still was pretty awesome. And yeah, so we don't know everything about venture capital, that's for sure, but we know a lot because we see a lot all around the world. And so you can really just ask anything in the Q&A, but let's talk a little bit about what we do. I don't like doing a presentation, guys. I have a presentation, but I'm not going to do it. I may show you some things here and there. Like it might be nice to show you our back office tool for a second. So I'll pull that up, but mainly I'm just going to talk to you about what we do. Okay. So we got VC Lab is an accelerator. There's an intake. We accept people. It's free. You don't pay anything. It's completely free. The only thing that we ask is that you publicly agree to the Mensarius Oath, which is an oath of ethical investing. And the reason for that is Mike and I are 100% here to help. We're not charging anything, but we want to work with people that want to make the world a better place. If you just want to launch a fund to print money in crypto or whatever, and you're not interested in making the world a better place, nothing wrong with that. That's great. And there's lots of free stuff that we do like this that you can benefit from, but we don't want to work with you day to day, right? We want to choose.
I posted the Mensarius Oath in the chat, everyone, just in case you want to take a look at it. It's there and it's an absolute requirement. We want to make sure that you post that. And
well,
we want everybody to be aligned. We want everybody to be aligned around these principles, basically. We get a lot of questions during admissions. Why are you asking me to do this? Why are you asking me to put this publicly on my LinkedIn or whatever? It's because that is the best way we have found for people to be accountable versus, just checking a box on an application or something like that, right? So we just want to make sure that folks are accountable to this oath.
We want you to check the box as well. And we want you to publicly say you support it. And if you can't publicly say you support it, then again, that's to us a sign that you just, maybe you don't support it, whatever, not for me to figure out. But we want to work with people that share our values and our vision for the world to make the world a better place. Whether VC Lab becomes the next Y Combinator or becomes the next whatever, that would be great. But I'll tell you, the greatest thing that we could do is start a bunch of funds that make the world a better place. And if we do that, it's a success no matter what the economics are. So the value alignment for us is first and foremost. So it's totally free, everything that we do, as I said. But the main thing is that we have an alignment in our vision and values. Okay, so you apply. There's already over 1,000 people in the queue. The early admissions deadline is on Sunday, April 10th. That's when we start. We'll process some admissions now, but that's when we genuinely start processing admissions. And you have the single best chances of getting into the program, which I'll discuss in one moment, if you apply by the early deadline. The earlier you apply, the better your chances to be accepted. Because we're not rejecting people outright right now. What we're doing is we'll give you feedback on how to improve your application, and you have time to fix it. So if we look at your application and it's not good for one reason or another, we'll tell you why, and then you can fix it. And so your best chances to get in are to apply sooner rather than later. The program itself is not a learning program. Now it will start, it's tentatively scheduled to start in June. We might move it up to late May, so late May, June. It's a closing program, okay? And there's a big distinction. So you're gonna learn things for sure, but you're gonna learn them by doing them to close your fund. And you will close a fund in 2022, or you'll leave the program. So the point of the program is to help you close your dream fund that is in alignment with the Mensarius Oath by the end of, no later than the end of 2022. And if for some reason you're not ready to close a fund now or whatever, you probably shouldn't apply. If for some reason you apply and get in, you're not going to finish the program because there are checkpoints throughout the program. The program will be a little over 4 months. It's usually 4 months long, but there's the summer. So this will be more like 5 months. And there's 3 reviews. In the first review, we check that your thesis is really strong. In the second review, we check that your materials are really strong. And in the third review, we check that you have enough commitments from limited partners to close. If you don't have those at those checkpoints, then we say, okay, right now is not a good time for you to be in the program. Come back, reapply to cohort 8, and come back when you're ready. Now, the way the program gets you ready for these reviews and eventually prepares you to close is each week we have a series of things that you need to do. This is, we call them sprints. And the sprints are all carefully designed so that they feed into one another. So by the time that you're ready to finish the program, you'll be in a position that you have everything you need to close. Does that make sense? So I can show you
so everything built on top of each other, basically, right? And that's the reason why we're able to get folks to a first closing very, very quickly, because we help you focus on things that matter and not waste times on things that don't matter, right? And by doing everything in order, you're able to get much faster efficiency with that.
Okay, so if you look here, you'll see month 1, month 2, month 3, now 4. Now, as I mentioned, the cohort 7 is probably going to be 5 months because we're taking some breaks. So these are proverbial months. And you see then below month 1, 2, 3, 4 there. And if hopefully you see my mouse, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are the sprint numbers, if you will. So the goal of month one of the program is that you have a world-class thesis. And we have people that are coming in on fund 2, close 2, whatever. Your thesis is so important, okay? If you can tell someone what you're working on, and it's so good that 1 in 3 people you tell say yes, then that means that you've got it right, okay? So our goal with the thesis is it's so good that 1 in 3 people you say your thesis to say, I want to invest, okay? And that's really the work. And you may think your thesis is great, then your month 1 will be easier for you. But we find a lot of people have a lot of work to do on their thesis. Trust me, even if it's your 2nd or 3rd fund, even if it's, and we have many people who speak volumes of the program again on 2nd and 3rd fund, 2nd and 3rd close, because wow, maybe my thesis wasn't that good. In month 2, once you have that thesis done, we're really working on your materials. Right? We're going to get you an amazing presentation, fund overview, data room, all this stuff all set up in month 2. You're going to start pitching limited partners in month 2. And, as I said, the gating item to get into month 2 is to really do that thesis review we talked about before. At the end of month 2, all your materials are ready. We do what's called the presentation review. We check that all your materials are in fact ready to be used with LPs to close them. And in month 3, you go on a closing push. You're going to be pitching connectors. You're going to be pitching limited partners. You're going to be pitching pretty much anyone and anyone that you can privately. You can't generally solicit. That's illegal in most places. So you have to privately find people, privately pitch them. And you're going to get commitments coming in using agreements that we've helped to create, like a pact, P-A-C-T. Maybe you could put a link into the pact. I see questions coming into the chat. Questions are in the Q&A, not in the chat. At the end of month 3, we'll make sure, we call it a pipeline review, that you have signed commitments from interested limited partners. And then in month 4, we begin the closing process, and we help you through organizing resources, getting law firms, all this stuff to actually close the fund outright. Now, we have tools to help you manage all this that are included in the program. We call it Home. Home will allow you to manage investors. So you have a pipeline here of investors, and you can, click on them and get all their information, their info, organizations, activity, notes, etc. So we have pipeline tools that are free. You can manage your team. I said people, I should have clicked on team. You can manage your team. You can manage your investors. So these are people that you spoke to, etc. You can manage your investments. These are things you're going to invest in. You can create deal memos for your investments. This is test data here. And we have all of these tools for you to massively simplify the process as you're going through building and closing your fund in the program. So there's a curriculum, there are tools, and then there are 2 other things that we do. So first, in no particular order, so the curriculum, the tools are all important. In addition to the curriculum and tools, we have a very, very active community. I guess I can quickly show you that as well. So I'm going to share my screen one more time. The community is Slack. And what you're going to see is, for example, in topic thesis right here, people are posting their thesis for feedback. You'll see like 8 pieces of feedback. You can ask questions on anything, right? And just to, I don't want to share, it's kind of private, so I just spun through it there. Just to give you a sense, it's the single most active Slack community that I've ever seen for anything. There's hundreds of messages, private and public, per day. And it's GPs talking with other GPs about everything that they need to understand to run their business, okay? The fourth component of the program is that we have weekly sessions. We just finished a weekly session, which is why we were a minute late. And there are 2 weekly sessions every single week during the program. One, there's a session with Mike and I, and we were doing cameras on with people all around the world, and they just ask questions, right? That's called the AMA. And so there's an AMA once a week. And if you're facing anything at any point in the program, you can ask Mike and I anything, ask me anything, right? And we're there and we try and help, whether it's with an LP, GP, team, anything. And we have tons of experience. And sometimes even other GPs will chime in and help. Then secondly, there's a mentored session, and we get either top experts in the field for whatever we're covering in the curriculum. So we could have a top modeling expert, a top lawyer, a top insert whatever the topic is, expert. And a lot of times we also just have top GPs. And frankly, right now, our grads are some of the best new GPs in the world. Many of them have the top performing funds in their markets. And so a lot of times we get alumni to come and be the mentors as well, because they're the best that we can find for a specific subject. So we have GPs, LPs, and experts coming in every week related to the topic at hand so that you can hear a perspective on it and inform your own view. And as a result of that, by luck, by fortune, by whatever, we are producing top decile funds all around the world. I would argue right now that, if we've doubled the number of firms that are being created and funds that are being created in a year, which will happen in 2022, you could say possibly our ratio is equal. So we have half the top decile funds and half the top quartile funds, for example. What I'm seeing is that we're actually outperforming the market, right? Because a lot of our advice is, I read a lot of the advice that people get on Twitter, and a lot of it's just wrong and or bad. So it looks like we have a disproportionate amount of top decile and top quartile funds in our alumni. So, your likelihood of being in the top decile or top quartile by going through the VC Lab program is dramatically increased because of the things that I mentioned before. You have the curriculum, the tools, the community, and the expert mentorship. And that gives you such a big leg up against people who are just launching funds without that you become among the best.